Good morning, everybody. Today's date is the 16th of March and the time is 10:25. So, yeah, it feels like all hell's sort of broken loose at the moment. And this will only continue. Astrologically, the last 10 days of March are all a bit mad. And this week we kind of reach our full fear peak, let us say, with what's going on around the world. But we start the week with Mercury moving back into Pisces. So we are back to where we were at the beginning of February before the retrograde, but with a little bit more information. There's still information to find out, but we are in a better position than we were. But we're still looking at Mercury in Pisces, which is not the best place. So we're still very foggy, we're still very vague, we're not getting those clear answers, and we are unlikely to get those clear answers until Mercury moves out of Pisces in early April. So there's lots of misunderstanding, lots of misinformation, but there is some indication of clarity within that. So maybe some little bits of a plan coming together, but still a lot of overreaction and misunderstanding around what's the best things to do. So that's how we begin the week, really. So how do we negotiate that? Well, I would say, check your sources of information. Don't use social media as your main source of information. Don't use the television necessarily as your main source of information, because this is 24-hour news that's got space to fill constantly, so they're constantly looking for things to exaggerate, to make us more fearful, to create a show, basically. So don't be surprised if we get a lot more of that as well now that Mercury's moved back into Pisces. Let's say that kind of foggy, not quite clear information that's available. So stick with what you know in terms of like good sources, and avoid anything that feels gossipy or exaggerated. I think that's the key with that one. So I put here in my notes, it says back to the fog again, and that's certainly how it'll feel while Mercury moves through its shadow period until we get to Mercury in Aries. I can't wait for that. Being a Sun Gemini myself, I like the clarity and I like the clearness, and I really don't work well under fog situations. So what else have we got to look forward to this week? Well, the pile-up in Capricorn is truly intense. I think it's about, you've got the moon moving across Capricorn on Wednesday and Thursday, which is added to the mix of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, South Node already there. So we're looking at the peak of this Capricorn energy that's been lurking around for quite a long time and intensifying, obviously, as we moved into into 2020. So what can we expect from that? And I think the Mars conjunct Jupiter is definitely the need for patience. I think Capricorn requires us to be slow and methodical. Mars doesn't like moving in a slow and methodical fashion, certainly, but Mars is exalted here. So it's saying that the best use of our energy is to double down, be slow, go at things in a practical and logical way, and not expect anything anytime soon to change things, although things will be changing colour at least by the end of this week when we look at some of the other things. But the middle of this week is peak Capricorn feels. So if you think of boundaries as being a very Saturnian thing, People closing borders, for example, is a very Saturn in Capricorn style thing to do. Isolationism, so we're doing this ourselves. Um, so it kind of bleeds into that whole Brexit style thing, but you know, to say that this idea of cutting ourselves off from everybody else. And as we will see when we look at next week, was the end of this week and beginning of next week, the switch in Saturn will mean that that is not the way forward for us. It's a completely different viewpoint has to be achieved by the end of this week. But as we're in the middle of this week, we're still looking at that kind of everybody's our enemy, everything's our enemy. We have to shut down, close down, shut the doors, get inside and wait for this all to blow over, and hopefully the enemy won't storm the gates, whether that be in the form of a virus or anything else. So so yeah, it's not pleasant. Isn't all this, and the thing about it is, you know, as with anything with Saturn, it's the biggest fear is fear itself, you know, and that could be more true of how we are at the moment. And say Mercury's not helping matters by say fogging things over. So say look at the facts, look at the practical things that you can do. Look at the world through a sensible, logical lens, rather than what may be presented to you or what your natural instincts might be saying. Oh, you know, get rid of everything, shut everything down, everybody says anybody, everybody's my enemy kind of thing. So so that's where we're at really, for the energy at the middle of the week. And like I say, it's not going to be particularly pleasant for us. But then you get the shift of Saturn into Aquarius on the 21st of March, and the Sun shifts into Aries on the 20th of March. So, I mean, the big story here is obviously the Saturn into Aquarius, because this little glimpse, which I'm just checking my dates here, so Saturn into Aquarius for its first dip is there from the 21st of March to the 1st of July. So, this is your first taste of the next 3 years, really, of what's to come for you personally and the world at large. And Aquarius as a sign is about community. It's about groups. It's about the collective. So this is about people coming together. And this is where you're going to see the shift. This is where you're going to see the shift in consciousness away from this kind of me and mine closed in kind of attitude that you've had with all this Capricorn. And also because Capricorn rules that kind of idea of old-fashioned, of old being best, and because we've always done things like this. And Saturn in Aquarius is going to blow that apart and say, no, we can't do that anymore. It's not working for us now. And this little glimpse over these next three or 4 months, we've got March, April, May, June, July, so it's three and a bit months, will say, well, if not like this, then what? What's it going to look like? What's our future going to look like with this shift in energy? And obviously on a personal level, you'll see that shift occurring, you know, like new themes will start emerging for you as it moves into a different house. And if you follow the whole sign system, which I do currently, then, you know, that says that you will feel it almost immediately. And one of the reasons why I shifted to whole signs house, because I've always felt that to be the case. Well, you can literally feel when these big planets shift into different signs, because it just different themes start occurring and different things become important. And even if it's not making any aspects early on, you can have that sense of it being around you. And you know, you just have that kind of shift in attitude towards things. And it might be subtle at first, but you can feel those seeds of change. And so if you are a diary writer or a journal writer, or if you kind of make note of your thoughts, when Saturn moves into a new sign, it is a good opportunity to start processing these things by writing down what your feelings are towards different areas in that. I mean, if you know your chart, you'll be able to go, well, right, it's moving from the 12th to the 1st or the 3rd to the 4th. So you'll be able to have an idea straight away of where that emphasis is going to be. So, if it is 4th house for you, that's all around your home and roots and family and those kinds of things. If it is in your 7th house, it will be to do with your relationship with other people. And for those of you who are around the sort of 27, 28 mark, it will be the start of your Saturn return. So anybody who's born from the beginning of 91, I think it was February 91, through to 94, you people will be getting that Saturn return, and will be needing to look at issues around wherever that Saturn is in your chart. And if you want to check that up, as I said to you before, have a look on astro.com, and they will provide you with a free chart as long as you know your date, place and time of birth, which can be tricky in the UK. But if you're lucky enough to have your mother still around, then give her a ring, and usually most mums know roughly at least what sort of time you were born. UK favourite of, Coronation Street was on the telly, or your dad was just back from work, tends to be the best indications you can have. But at least it'll give you a rough idea as to what your ascendant will be, and then as a result where your planets will be in terms of houses. Obviously when Mars joins Saturn at the end of March and the beginning of April, that will add another dimension to the picture, because that sort of heralds the work of the Saturn that you're going to have to do with a real crisis blast. So you might start it off with a sudden something will suddenly happen for you that will set you on this path for the next 3 years. So that Mars there can really interrupt and disrupt plans and patterns and thought processes. I mean, obviously we've had and will continue to have Mars in a Saturn rule sign for around 12 weeks altogether, 6 weeks in each Capricorn and Aquarius. So it could just link into the general atmosphere of how things are at the moment, and how that's going to focus your mind, or how that's going to affect you in terms of the work you do, what you do with the family you have, the relationships you have, all those kind of things. So we'll go more into that next week when we look at the Saturn meeting up with Aquarius. But one thing that is good to focus on and to remember is that while we are peak Capricorn this week, it's the beginning of the end. As soon as Saturn moves into Aquarius on the 21st, that whole pile up of planets then starts to get picked apart one by one. You'll see it shift, and so that by the end of the month and the beginning of April, you are literally left with Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn, because the South Node will be moving out. Saturn's definitely gone by then. Mars will be in Aquarius by then. So we're talking peak Capricorn this week. So if that's been a rough ride for you over the last couple of months, and particularly in the last few weeks, then know that this is the beginning of the end of it. And while things might seem horrible in the middle of it, we will go through. The thing about we all know about life is it never stays the same. Things will change. So whatever the madness is going on at the moment, it will change, and it will shift, and things will start to develop and come to pass sooner or later. So, really remember and hang on in there and think about there is good times to come, and we won't always be in the middle of this horribleness that we are in now. So, so like I said as well, the kind of the spring equinox is kind of overshadowed by the Saturn moving into Aquarius, but it's still there. So the spring equinox on the 21st, beginning of Aries season. Aries is ruled obviously by Mars, so at the beginning of its cycle, that Mars is still in Capricorn, and causing us a lot of trouble. But we should still be looking to the positives and the fact that the equinox is the start of the spring, and you can certainly feel that. I mean, where I am, the trees are beginning to bud, the daffodils are out, the birds are singing like mad at the moment. They're obviously very happy. So, and Venus is still in Taurus, where where it is at its best in terms of enjoying the nature and the spring. So in and amongst all the crazy, having that time to just enjoy nature's beauty, and the fact that we have got to the spring equinox and the clocks will be going forward at the end of the month, and we'll start to see some lighter, brighter weather, has got to be a positive. You've got to take your little pleasures in life, and obviously the equinox is a time to celebrate and do ritual and to set intentions. It's the beginning of the astrological year. So, taking time to think about what you would like from this. I mean, those plans might change, particularly when Saturn and Mars meet up in Aquarius by the end of the month. But, it's still good to write them down and to think about where you'd like to be, irrespective of what else is happening right now. So, if you're setting out your altar, think of the lovely Mars colours of red and orange, and the fire that burns. So get your candles to celebrate that fire and that life returning to the earth, and bringing the positive vibrations into everything that's around us. The fire warms, and as well, as fire can be a positive and a negative thing, but if you're setting your intentions, think about how fire warms us and brings us that life. And if you think of it sort of metaphorically as being the spark of creativity and of life, and brightness, and all of those sort of positive birth-like images that you get when you think of the spring and what it represents to us. So I think that one of the things that we all must really think about is that you take those positives where we can, and remember that there is lots of good in the world out there still, and that we can still celebrate and enjoy what is around us. So I'm just having a quick look, see if I've missed anything out for this week. So yeah, I think that's mainly it. So we're sort of, like I said, peak Capricorn madness. Don't let fear and the shadows overwhelm you. Look for ways in which to find the positive, and to take pleasure in the things that the Venus in Taurus reminds us of. So, having a walk out into the countryside, celebrating those things that you do have and that are good in your life. So being positive even in and amongst this, because the one thing that the darkness and the shadows don't like is somebody bringing light into the room. And if you can start to bring that light in, the better you will feel about, you know, what is going on and how you can remain a beacon of hope in and amongst everything. So that's been my take on things this week. Stay safe. So be positive. There is good to come and will come over the next few months, and we will get through this together as Aquarius will want us to do going forward. So, you know, remember that we are a social species, and we do need to work together and help each other and find positive things to take from those interactions that we can and do get. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.